listening? Damn. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to an emergency episode of the Damn Podcast. I feel kind of weird saying emergency podcast, Jake, because it's a big day for Oregon State right now. First of all, how are you? You're home.
Yep. I'm doing well. Finally done with school. Got 2 days at home before I head back up to Corvallis for a few more days. Just driving back up and down.
And that's not Beaver Blitz. That's your other job. So you're a busy guy. But let's jump on. I appreciate you guys listening. Gosh, we have a bunch of viewers on already. If you have comments or questions, please pop them in the chat. We'll try to get to as many of those as we can. We don't have a real structured show right now, but we wanted to talk about the big quarterback commitment today in Malik Murphy, transfer from Texas by way of Duke, originally from Inglewood, California. We also want to talk about the portal and kind of the comings and goings, give you guys kind of a rundown. We're halfway through the portal period right now, the winter portal period. So we'll kind of talk about comings and goings. If you haven't been following it super close, Jake and I have. And then if we have some time, we will talk a little men's basketball because that's been actually really fun to watch the past couple games. Emergency pod means you get me exactly how I am, which is been running around and calling sources and texting Jake and calling Jake. And it's been a little bit of a crazy morning day. But Jake, let's talk Malik Murphy. Let's rewind a little bit because Oregon State, it was known when Giovanni McCoy jumped in the portal early that Oregon State would be looking for a portal quarterback. Malik was a target last season before Giovanni McCoy and before he chose Duke. He took a quick visit, but I think it was cut short because of some inclement weather. He chose Duke. He's back in the portal. There was some talk earlier in the week that he was a potential, but then it was Auburn and Kentucky.
Both Auburn and Kentucky. Yeah.
And then Oregon State last weekend had brought in Nevada quarterback Brendan Lewis. Brendan Lewis had basically then said when he went to call, from what I've heard, when he went to call other programs to tell him he was committing to Oregon State, they talked him into visiting. So that extended it out. Malik Murphy came in yesterday. I think he got in a little before lunchtime and was out early this morning and committed. So Jake, tell me a little bit about why Beaver fans should be excited about the pickup of Malik Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, this is arguably a bigger addition than the commitment of DJ in 2022 ahead of the 2023 season, just due to, the status of where Oregon State is right now. There's been lots of questioning on whether Oregon State could compete with the big boys still. And I think this shows that, Oregon State's got the collective, they've got the coaching staff, they've got the resources to really just get stuff done. I mean, this isn't, like some slouched kid. He's the fourth highest ranked QB in the transfer portal. I mean, this is a big time get. He's a guy who's going to be the starter the second he steps on campus. Really it's just massive because, other transfer players are going to see this. They're, high school kids are going to see this. They're going to see Oregon State still going to compete despite, whatever may have happened conference wise.
Yeah, I mean, the kid can sling it. If you haven't seen his film, I urge you to go check it out because the kid can throw it. He is 6'5", 230, big, strong quarterback with a rifle of an arm. Last year at Duke, helped lead them to a 9-3 record, threw for 2,933 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. So big numbers for him. And like you said, beyond the fact what this does for Oregon State on the field and what he brings to the field of play, you're right. It brings some buzz. I've seen fans coming out of the woodwork. It's been a busy day on Beaver Blitz as the excitement and juice and buzz are there. And it has to help, like you said, with the whole Pac-2, Pac-12 realignment. It helps with fans, donations to the collective. I think we're going to feel the reverberations of this for a bit going forward. And talk about if you're Trent Walker, Darius Clemens, Jimmy Valson, some of these receivers, how excited are you right now?
Yeah, I mean, they're stoked. I mean, Malik's, like you said, I mean, he is the definition of a gunslinger, and he's got the arm to, make just about any throw that, Coach Gundy wants him to. And it's going to really open up the Oregon State playbook, because this past year, plays were limited. There wasn't really tons of shots down the field. It was kind of the quicker stuff. And then, once Ben Branson got put in, we started to see 10, 15-yard outs, and you kind of started to see the deeper stuff progress. And now adding one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country in Malik Murphy, I think that's just going to add a whole nother element to this Oregon State offense. And I think a big thing is we still have Jabari Johnson. We still have that quarterback that can run the ball, that change of pace guy. I think having that together, paired with two really good running backs coming back, two really good receivers, plus guys like Jimmy Vallis, and I think Jeremiah Hoga is going to have a big year in 25 as well. And then two talented tight ends in Bryce Caulfield and Jackson Bowers, who just announced his commitment this morning as well. I think this Oregon State offense has a chance to be dynamic, and honestly, the most explosive it's been since Jake Luton and Isaiah Hodgins in 2019.
Yeah, I'm going to jump to the comments a little bit. We have Joe Swaim in the comments. Is this why McCoy left? No, McCoy left before all of this. He was one of the first in the portal.
He was the second. Third. Second.
So I think he saw the writing on the wall when you start looking at losing it. I mean, he did battle some injury, but he did, for all intents and purposes, lose a starting position toward the end of the season. It just the offense wasn't moving real great with him in it. No inside. He just said unsure if we had an inside line on Murphy. No, this is again, hat tip to the coaching staff, to the collective. Ryan Gunderson putting in the working overtime, and there's a lot of people involved in this, you guys. I mean, these quarterbacks and players have agents and coaches and quarterback coaches and trainers. Everybody kind of gets involved here. So hat tip to Oregon State's staff for landing the biggest commitment of this new staff, but probably one of the top quarterbacks they've landed maybe ever.
Yeah, I mean, this kid is talented. I mean, he's a physical freak. For fans that are, unaware of really how big Malik is, go and look up a picture of the Texas quarterback room in 2023, because he is absolutely massive. And having a guy who can sling the ball the way that Malik can, paired with all the dynamic receivers Oregon State's have, the run, it just it sets up Ryan Gunderson for a ton of success. And I think this offense is going to look a lot different. You may not see the quarterback, run the ball as much, but I think you're going to see a lot more balance of an offense. And I think Oregon State is going to put a lot more points up this year.
Well, that's something interesting. I keep saying that he doesn't run and he's too big, and he runs, I think, a 4.6, was kind of his. But for a 6'5", 230 guy, that's pretty fast. I mean, it's moving. So, but again, you have then Jabari Johnson, who can move it as well with his legs. So maybe have some packages. Jared on Twitter, on X, asked, why is no one talking about Jimmy Vallis? Well, we just did about him being in the mix, but he's just been injured for 18 months?
No, less than that.
A year. Yeah. So, he's been out. So, hopefully he's back. Yeah, he should be back. And like I said, what a way to come back too with Malik Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, tossing in even Taz Reddix and Zach Card and David Wells, and Jordan Anderson's still sticking around. Malachi Durant, this is a receiving room that really went from kind of a question mark coming into this season coming into this past season to now in 2025. It looks deep. I mean, it's a legitimate 3 deep group. So I'm very excited about this OSU receiving core.
Yeah. So big news. If you're just joining us, we have a lot of people on. We wanted to jump in here and talk about a big pickup with Malik Murphy jumping on board. He should be here in January for start of winter conditioning. And so it's been a busy couple days, Jake. It's been a little wild. Also thought I didn't mention this in the lead in, but Oregon State did lose a coach yesterday. Thomas Ford is taking the head job at Idaho. So big congrats to him. Oregon State now jumps. I mean, Coach Gunderson basically goes from trying to celebrate landing a huge quarterback to now looking for a new running back coach. Talk about what, in his short time, what Coach Ford did for Oregon State.
I mean, I think Coach Ford was arguably our most successful assistant coach this past year. I'd say the running back group, kind of performed the best, even dealing with their starting back going down the season in the first drive of Game 5. He's a great coach. I think he is going to do a great job coaching at Idaho. And again, I think he was Oregon State's arguably his best receiver as well, best recruiter as well. I thought he did a fantastic job. He had a great connection with Team FSP up in Seattle. I thought he did a great job with Corday Glass as well. As he's a guy that Coach Ford identified pretty early in the process, and Coach Ford got his guy, Skylar Jackson, as well. So overall, great coach. Thankful for his time at Oregon State, and now, best of luck at Idaho.
Yeah, it's a big move for him, and it's been interesting. So I've had a lot of people reaching out. I've done this a long time, and quarterback or running back coaches especially seem to you go after the young guns, young energetic guys, and they make moves. Oregon State's been through a lot of running back coaches over the past even 10 years.
This will be our fourth in the next 4 years.
Yeah, it's been
Stewart, KB, Ford, and
Nathan Kerr in the chat. Any players Ford will take to Idaho with him? I don't see anybody jumping from Oregon State to Idaho. So
at least in terms of significant contributors.
Yeah, significant contributors. He might take some guys that maybe weren't seeing the field, but I don't see him taking any
big names.
Digital Dam. I've been smiling ear to ear seeing Beaver Nation is happy with the announcements today. We deserve this after what has happened in the last year and a half. Freaking men. It needed a little bit. I just did a quick look while Jake was talking about Coach Ford. So Malik Murphy, jumping back to Malik Murphy, he ranks as the third highest rated quarterback Oregon State has brought in. So, and that's in the all-time 24/7. So for the past, 24 years, Derek Anderson actually was the highest ranked quarterback. He is our number 2 ranked overall commit behind Isaac Samalo. Derek was a 98 ranking. Aiden Childs was a 93. And even in the transfer portal, Malik Murphy is a 92. A lot of times guys' stock goes down from from when they were a high school, but Malik Murphy is still 92. So that's big. So he is the third highest ranked quarterback in this modern era. So that's good to see. Okay, so let's talk transfer portal, because it's been a busy 2 days for us. I know I kind of teased it on X yesterday, and people were kind of like, well, what? Oregon State picked up, they lost a running back coach. They have a visitor from a 4-star quarterback, and they picked up a player. We had these kind of in the can. We'd known some of these guys had committed. So let's talk about, first of all, 6 outgoing transfers, right? As of right now, we haven't had a pod for about a month now. So looking at the list of outgoing transfers, Oregon State has lost edge rusher DJ Westlock, cornerback Andre Jordan, quarterback Giovanni McCoy, interior offensive lineman Luka Vinchik, linebacker, and then middle linebackers Isaiah Chisholm and Melvin Jordan. Any comments on that crew? Yeah,
I think it certainly does sting to lose both Isaiah and Melvin. Especially Melvin, team captain guy. It's not only a big piece on the field, but it's a big piece in the locker room as well. So that kind of stings. And then again, I think Luka Vinchik was a guy that was probably slated to start at offensive guard in 25. But I've followed his former offensive line coach and Coach M, who's a hell of an offensive line coach as well. So it's a totally understandable thing. Obviously would have liked to keep those guys, but trusting the staff, and I think they've done a good job evaluating guys so far, and they're doing a good job finding some replacements.
Yeah, I agree. So so far visiting, Oregon State has welcomed Montana linebacker Riley Wilson. It's Wilson, right?
Yep.
Okay. Riley Wilson, if you watch his film, he's hard hitting.
Yeah.
He is fun to watch. Tomorrow, they're also welcoming USC transfer in Rajon Davis, another middle linebacker. So those are two names that we're watching just to kind of keep an eye on. So I know Wilson was going to check out Boise State and Arizona.
Yeah.
He's already visited Oregon State. So definitely keep an eye on those two. They need one, at least one of those guys. Now let's talk incoming transfers. So Oregon State started things off late last week, about a week ago, with the commitment of JT Hand, an interior offensive lineman from Arizona, had been with Coach Devan before.
Yep.
They've now picked up Tajay Mullick's defensive line out of Western Carolina, Keon Cox, an offensive tackle from UCF, and then Walker Harris is the latest from Southern Utah, an edge rusher from Southern Utah. What can you tell me about these guys that they have?
Yeah, I mean, I think these are guys that are going to come in and provide depth and push horse hard jobs. I think what we saw kind of kill Oregon State was a lack of depth this year, especially defensively. And now I think they're addressing that, and the guys that they're bringing in aren't just depth pieces; they're guys that can compete for starting jobs. And I think, worst case, these guys are rotational players. Best case, they're every down guys. In terms of Cox and Hand, the two offensive linemen, none of them have really played a whole lot, but they're experienced guys. They've got a few years playing college football underneath their belt. JT's already got that familiarity with Kyle Devan. He's more of an interior guy where we could see him pushing for a chance at an offensive guard spot or being the backup center to Van Wells. Then Cox is a bigger guy at 6'5", 300 pounds. He'll probably push for a tackle spot and see some action on special teams if he doesn't start. And then defensively, Tajay Mullick is a guy, 6'3", 270. I'm thinking Oregon State's probably going to try and bulk him up to around 285, 290. Oregon State likes to rotate their defensive tackles, so even if he doesn't start, you're probably going to see him on the field a decent amount next year. And then I think Walker Harris is kind of a tweener, whether they bulk him up and play him at that defensive end spot or they keep him that lighter spot and play him at outside back. I think he's a guy who's probably going to find his way onto the field sooner rather than later, as well as an experienced guy. I think this next year will be his sixth year of college football. So he's a guy who's seen a lot of football. I would assume he has a pretty high football IQ after going through all of that. Excited to see what all those guys can do in spring practice.
Yeah, and one other, and I just added him to the list because he hadn't been added yet with the flurry. This was today, is tight end from BYU, Jackson Bowers. So another key piece there for Oregon State in the transfer portal. So right now we're net zero, lost 6, gained 6. And Jackson Bowers is what, 6'4", 6'5", 240?
He's 6'5", 245. He again was one of those highly recruited kids.
Yeah, 4-star out of high school.
Yeah, he had offers from just about everywhere. He played in the Polynesian Bowl, was teammates with Jabbar Johnson and Tavita Pomey in that. So there's some sort of familiarity with some guys already on our team. And, he was a guy Oregon State offered fast, and I believe actually committed before he even visited. I think that's telling the job Oregon State's done in terms of recruiting. And I think I've been pretty impressed with John Boyer's tight end recruiting chops. Picking up Cody Signer was a pretty big get because he's a guy Oregon State really wanted for a while. And now, Jackson Bowers is a pretty sought after kid.
Yeah. And before anybody asks, I know this was asked in the lodge, no known relation to Bowers,
Brock
Bowers from Georgia. I'm just running through the comments really quick. Brian Miller asked any idea or leads on who we're wanting for running back coach. Jake has created our hot board, so make sure you're checking out Beaver Blitz because we'll be updating that.
There's going to be an update tomorrow.
Yeah. So we are talking to all our sources and trying to get you guys the best intel we can. Wanted to get something up though as soon as Coach Ford was leaving, just to start the discussion. But then I got so busy with all the recruiting stuff, it kind of fell off. But it's going to pick right back up again. because Oregon State is going to want to get that running back coach in play here as soon as they can. Eric F. On YouTube, we can trust this coaching staff. The job they're doing with our situation needs to be applauded. I agree. There's and you look at what's going on right now with Washington State losing their head coach, OC, DC. 20. Last I checked, it was 29 guys in the portal. I don't know what they're at now. They've lost a lot.
What happened to Oregon State in this past offseason looks like it's happening to Washington State now. I mean, whole staff's gone. We're pretty much their whole staff's gone.
It's
feel bad for Cougar Bros.
Jermaine Gray, fingers crossed for Rajon Davis. I agree. I've seen him play a little bit. I just think, and I've heard from some people down in Southern California, just what a high IQ football player he is, and that he can read offenses really quickly and react. So I think that's one of the things that maybe we missed a little bit this past year was the quick reaction, taking good angles, some of that. So I think that would be a big, he would be a big addition and would fit really easily and well into Coach Bray and Coach Hayward's defense. Also from Jermaine Gray, question: what do you think Malik Murphy's commitment does to the identity of OSU's offense? Are the Beavs a passing team now?
No, I think they're still going to be a run first team. But I think just having the ability to, keep teams honest with, at times this year, it felt like it was like 70-30 run pass, even higher. I think that's going to be balanced out to 50-50. I think it's going to be pretty split. Oregon State, their identity, at least in the last 8 years, has been a run first team. And I think that's still going to continue. But I think you're going to see the ball thrown a lot more. Probably the most we've seen since 2019. Yeah,
I agree. I don't see Oregon State abandoning the run. They have some talented runners. In a line that can run block. So I think, but to not be one-dimensional like we saw at times this past year is huge. Let's see. I'm just going down the comments. So if you guys have comments, we are over 1,000 viewers right now too. So thanks for tuning in. I know it's a big day for Oregon State and for Beaver Nation. Again, if you're not a member of Beaver Blitz, we're celebrating the Malik Murphy news with 50% off an annual subscription. Get yourself a Christmas present. Join us for the year. We've got basketball, we've got baseball, spring camp, fall camp. It's kind of never ending, is it, Jake? We keep you busy.
Yeah, there's no complaints here.
Lots going on. Basketball, like I said, we're going to talk about that in a minute, just because they're playing like a team and they look actually like they could win some games this year. So kind of fun to watch. Let's see, Corliss OSU, Branson prediction. I think this is when Dr. Ben goes and becomes a doctor. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, this time not expecting Ben Branson to be back. Oregon State's already has 4 scholarship QBs with Jabbar Johnson, Callan Guttridge, and Tristan Tia, and now Maalik Murphy. So not expecting to see another scholarship quarterback addition, but wouldn't be shocked to see a walk-on added though with the transfer of Dom Montiel and the graduation of Jake Sanders.
Yeah, so they lost a couple depth guys there. Eric F., I know we had a lot of injuries, but how confident are we in the D-line going into next year if we can stay healthy?
I think another big key is not only staying healthy, but another year in the weight room and another offseason of experience. A lot of these guys last year were super young, like, Thomas Collins, Jodo Johnson, Tavita Pomade. These guys were redshirt freshmen. Jacob Schuster, even, it was his first year in the Oregon State or second year in the Oregon State program. So it was younger guys who hadn't really played as much football. And I think getting that in-game experience paired with the returns of guys like Sakari Hickel, Nick Norris, and Kelsey Howard, I think the depth piece is really coming together. And I think with, just more time, more time in the weight room as well, I think the on-field performance will start to elevate as well.
Yeah, and adding someone like Tajay Mullix, we had a discussion in the lodge that he wasn't super number-wise production, or didn't have huge numbers. Again, it's a good depth piece, especially when you can get Nick Norris back and Schuster and those guys. So you're not moving a true freshman offensive lineman over to help fill holes. So you never know too. I mean, like I said, nice. He's 6'3", 270. Add a little more weight on him, and he should be ready to go. There's some comments about Steven Jackson coming back as a running back coach. I've seen that mentioned. I don't expect that to happen. I mean, it makes a good story. It makes a good soundbite. But I think Oregon State's going to go look for someone young, hungry, up and coming coach to coach running backs that can relate to kids, to coach them, and then also recruit. That's kind of the MO when you look at running back coaches, especially, that you want guys that can relate and can recruit well. So that's what I'm looking for. And like I said, Jake and I will have an update probably tomorrow on that hot board, which, like I said, that's for members of Beaver Blitz. So you want to jump on that. And Jake's been on top of everything, breaking stories, breaking news, and dialed in. Jake, you're dialed in. Can Joe Swaim, can Jam Griffin return with medical red shirt?
If he does choose to appeal and get it, yes, he could. But
yeah, I've heard it's going to be tough. But then I look around the college landscape, and guys are getting 7th and 8th years. So that injury did happen in the 5th game.
This would be a 7th year, I think.
It would be a 7th. Okay. So it did happen too in the 5th game, which is over that third of the season cut. So I think it's going to be a long shot, but we'll see what happens. Eric F., yes, we need another recruiter. So I do look, not that Steven Jackson wouldn't be an amazing recruiter, but I'm expecting a young up and coming coach, kind of in the same mold that we've seen Oregon State the past several running back coaches. I mean, you look across the like Jake said, 4 running back coaches in 4 years. There's been quite a few. So in my opinion, I've said this on the damn podcast before, it's a good sign when your young coaches are getting promotions, because it means you have good coaches. So it's not always a bad thing. Lucas Aguilar, any idea how many portal guys OSU plans on taking in total? I know you guys posted each position, but I'm wondering what the cap is and how many guys they're looking to add. I think they're getting pretty close to being maxed out. Still need a linebacker, a DB, expect a defensive cornerback. Jake, what am I missing here? Another possible O-line?
Maybe one more O-lineman. I could see that.
So, that's
the Vatican is one they're still pursuing.
Timoteo.
Besides Timoteo. And then cornerbacks, you got TJ Crandall and Ryan Turner as guys I'm looking at. And then backers, Rajon Davis, and then Riley Wilson as well.
Timoteo, is he a guard? Is he interior?
He has the ability to play both. I feel like one of those guys can flex in or out. And I think that's what they're kind of looking to add, is like a Grant Stark type piece, a guy who can start at guard or start at tackle, just a guy that's got that flexibility. So
great questions, you guys. Keep them coming if you have them. We're going to switch gears and talk a little men's basketball. But if you have football questions or comments, please post them in the chat. Men's basketball, 2 losses. They are a top, what's their net?
It was 36 yesterday.
And they were 160 last year, you guys.
Yeah. It probably changed after last night's games, but they were 36 yesterday.
Okay, so they head to Hawaii. They're heading to Oahu for the Diamond Head Classic. They take on Charleston on December 22nd. And then December 23rd, they're playing either Oakland or Loyola Chicago. What has been your biggest takeaway, Jake? You've seen these guys live. What is your biggest takeaway in the change this year versus last year?
I think it's pretty evident that the foreign style of play is, in Corvallis. I feel like if you watch the NBA nowadays, it's a lot of one-on-one. Not a lot of defense being played, and I feel like last year particularly, that's kind of how Oregon State's identity was. And I think if you look at the Euro leagues, it's a lot of team basketball, like the ball that was played in like the 90s and early 2000s. And now I think you're seeing that foreign flavor kind of influence the identity of this Oregon State team. I think they're a very selfless team, but sometimes they're almost too unselfish. And then I think they can defend, which has been all of Wayne Tinkle's teams that have, made runs and gotten far. they've been able to really defend their ass off. And I think this team is one of the best defensive teams Tinkle has. And then I think another thing that really stands out about his team is they're deep. Like, I mean, I would feel confident in any scholarship player, all 13, 14 of those guys. I'd be confident with any of those guys playing the game at any one point in time, which I feel is like a major change, because in past years it's been Oregon State's got 6, 7 guys that are maybe high level Division I caliber, and the rest are guys who you don't really trust. Whereas now it's guys where it's like, okay, like even if, you know, Parsifal is in foul trouble, Matthew Marsh is in foul trouble, you can still count on, you know, Thomas Hendong or Gavin Mars or really any of those guys to go in and hold their own. And I think Coach Tinkle's done a great job adjusting and, you know, noticing that the identity of his team was wrong and pivoting off that and trying something new. And it's been a small sample size, but it's worked.
Yeah, it's amazing when they start playing team basketball and not, you know, me basketball. What the difference, and it really is fun to watch. We watched it. My son came home from basketball practice and flipped it on the other night, and we watched the game. Oh, I lost Jake for a second. So it was actually fun to watch. I encourage you to get down to Corvallis and see if you can get down there to watch a game. I know that Gonzaga game is in mid January, so that should be a fun one. I see a couple questions here. Eric F. had a comment. Can we please steal a Michigan State player? I don't care who. Yes, it's petty. I don't know who you'd want, though, honestly. I mean, I don't know. Who's a step up? I didn't watch a ton of their stuff, though, either. So this is actually a really good question. Noah Kraus, do you think with the ruling of the Pavia case, eligibility for JUCO players could have any effect for us? Could we see any Beavs return that were out of eligibility with the previous rules? Jake's back. Can you hear me, Jake?
Yep.
So we're a question here from Noah Kraus about the Pavia case out of Vandy with JUCO players. We talked about this earlier today, just about how this could. So if you haven't been following along, there was a ruling in a case where basically a young man who played JUCO for 2 years and went to play D1 said that his earning potential was harmed because of the eligibility rules. So the judge actually, the way it is interpreted, that if you play JUCO ball, you can still go Division I and have 4 years eligibility. Which Jake and I immediately started texting last night saying, okay, Nico Taylor, Josh Green. So, I mean, someone like Nico Taylor could really benefit, I think, from another year, because he was really just kind of starting to hit his stride. Anyway, nothing has been set in concrete yet. I haven't. Have you heard anything?
My kind of read on this is that each player has to take it to court individually. That was kind of my reading on it.
Okay.
I'm no business law expert, so I got really no clue how it works. My basic understanding of how that went down, but that may very well be wrong and inaccurate.
Which is interesting too, because again, another pod, I think Jake and I could really kind of go off on the whole state of college athletics right now, but who this hurts, in my opinion, is the high school players. If this becomes more commonplace, it's going to affect then those high school players that are looking to make a roster. So, and that's sad. It's already that way with the transfer portal, but it's going to hurt them even more. So, in a good part, Oregon State, if they rely heavily on developing high school players, it's, there should be maybe more to choose from. This is a time when we need McBoderson on the case, because I'm sure he could give us a good rundown on that. But it has been a good day for Oregon State. Like I said, several commitments. We had 3 commitments today. There's been 6 here in a week. It's been a little bit busy. Have there been any rumblings about potential NCAA changes to NIL tampering? I don't think, that's such a hard one to enforce, because a lot of times it's not the member schools calling, it's agents calling on behalf of, or NIL collectives calling on behalf of. So it's a tough one. So I've not heard any changes to that. I think the NCAA right now is a little over their head in a lot of things. So I I think there's a lot of schools running the show right now. So Lucas Aguilar seems like this men's basketball team plays with a very mature attitude compared to years past. I think you're right. It's just part of that team mentality. So I think it's been a good day. Thank you. A ton of people joining us. Jake, anything else to add before we sign off on this quick emergency pod? We did go 35 minutes, which for an emergency pod, jumping on at the last minute,
decent.
It's pretty good. So I appreciate everybody jumping on. Again, big news with Malik Murphy jumping on board. Join Beaver Blitz if you're not a member. Get yourself a Christmas present. Christmas is less than a week away. 50% off an annual membership right now. Also, I know it's been in the lodge. This is a time to look at Damnation NIL and if you're making your commitments there, because they work hand in hand with the coaches and they're able to help put together packages for the players and help Oregon State recruit at the level that I think fans want them to. So giving them a little plug as well. Damnation NIL. They have monthly plans available. I think as low as $10 a month. Again, like I said, Beaver Blitz, 50% off on that. Christmas, Jake, what is on your wish list? What do you want Santa to bring you?
A Diamond Head Tournament Classic win on Christmas morning.
Okay, there you go. Diamond Head Classic tournament win. You already got a quarterback. And now I'm just trying to talk Jake into I'm trying to talk Jake into like maybe taking another fall term next year. I'm working on it, Beaver Nation. That's what I want for Christmas. I want Jake to like stick around a little longer, but can't do that. In the meantime, have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays with your friends. And just because it's the holidays doesn't mean that Jake and I won't be busy on Beaver Blitz. So make sure you're in the lodge and keeping track of us where you keep track of us. I'm Angie Machado. He's Jake Hedberg. Thank you for joining us on this Emergency Dam podcast.